Welcome back to Brainwaves. In today's episode, we will delve into a thought-provoking and controversial topic: the case for abolishing the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, often regarded as the pinnacle of the American judicial system, plays a critical role in interpreting and upholding the Constitution. Its decisions have far-reaching implications, shaping the laws that govern our nation. However, there are those who argue that the Supreme Court, in its current form, wields too much power and lacks democratic accountability. Today, we will explore the critiques, arguments, and potential consequences of abolishing this prestigious institution. Join us as we dive deep into this complex and contentious issue. In this segment, we will explore the establishment and composition of the Supreme Court, shedding light on its origins and structure. The Supreme Court of the United States was established by Article 3 of the Constitution in 1789, making it the highest judicial authority in the nation. Comprised of 9 justices, including 1 Chief Justice, members of the court are nominated by the President and confirmed by the Senate, serving lifetime appointments. Image source: architectural design of the Supreme Court building. In this segment, we will explore the crucial role the Supreme Court plays in the judicial system of the United States. As the highest court in the land, it is responsible for interpreting and applying the law, including the Constitution, in order to ensure justice and safeguard individual rights. The court hears cases that have made their way through lower courts and have significant legal implications. Through its decisions, the Supreme Court establishes legal precedents that guide future court rulings, shaping the interpretation and application of laws across the country. Image source: Supreme Court in session. In this segment, we will explore the concept of judicial review and the Supreme Court's power to interpret the Constitution. The doctrine of judicial review grants the court the authority to determine the constitutionality of laws and actions taken by the government. This power, established by the landmark case Marbury v. Madison in 1803, has allowed the court to shape the legal landscape and protect individual rights. Through its interpretation of the Constitution, the Supreme Court has the ability to strike down laws or policies that are found to be in conflict with the Constitution. Image source: Supreme Court justices on the bench. In this segment, we will examine one of the key critiques of the Supreme Court's power and influence: the lack of democratic accountability. Unlike other branches of government, such as the executive and legislative branches, which are directly elected by the people, Supreme Court justices are appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate. This means that their positions are not subject to direct democratic input or oversight. Critics argue that this lack of accountability undermines the principles of representative democracy and places too much power in the hands of a few unelected individuals. Image source: democracy and election concept. In this segment, we will explore another critique of the Supreme Court's power and influence: overreaching judicial activism. Judicial activism refers to instances where the court goes beyond its role of interpreting the law and actively shapes public policy. Critics argue that activist judges may use their positions to advance personal or ideological agendas, imposing their own beliefs on society. This perceived overreach can undermine the democratic process and encroach upon the authority of the elected branches of government. Image source: scales of justice. In this segment, we will discuss the influence of partisan politics on the Supreme Court's power and influence. Justices are appointed by the President, who often selects candidates that align with their own political ideologies. As a result, the court can become divided along partisan lines, with decisions being influenced by the justices' political leanings rather than impartial legal analysis. This perception of bias undermines the court's reputation as an objective arbiter of justice and raises concerns about the potential politicization of judicial decision-making. Image source: political party symbols. In this segment, we will explore one of the arguments for increased democratic representation in the judiciary: the proposal for a democratically elected judiciary. Advocates argue that by having judges elected through popular vote, we can ensure that they are directly accountable to the people they serve. This would involve implementing a system where candidates for judicial positions run campaigns, similar to other elected offices. Image source: voting booth with ballot. In this segment, we will discuss another argument for increased democratic representation, increasing transparency and public participation in the judiciary. Supporters of this idea propose measures such as broadcasting court proceedings to the public, allowing cameras in the courtroom, and providing live streaming of oral arguments. By making court proceedings more accessible, citizens can have a greater understanding of the judicial process and actively engage in discussions surrounding cases. Image source: courthouse with transparent walls. In this segment, we will explore the argument for enhancing accountability through regular evaluations in the judiciary. Advocates suggest implementing mechanisms to assess judges' performance and qualifications periodically. These evaluations could consider factors such as decision-making consistency, adherence to legal principles, and ethical conduct. By establishing a system of regular evaluations, we can ensure that judges are held accountable for their actions and maintain the highest standards of integrity and competence. Image source: evaluation checklist. In this segment, we will explore one alternative system for judicial decision-making: a panel of judges instead of a single Supreme Court. Instead of having a sole decision-maker, this system would involve a group of judges deliberating and collectively making decisions. This can bring diverse perspectives, collective wisdom, and reduce the impact of personal biases. The panel could consist of an odd number of judges to avoid tie votes, and they would collaboratively analyze cases, deliberate, and reach a consensus. Image source: group of judges in a courtroom. In this segment, we will discuss another alternative system for judicial decision-making: selection by lottery or rotation. Instead of the current system of appointing judges, this approach suggests randomly selecting individuals from a pool of qualified candidates or rotating judges from lower courts to serve on higher courts. Proponents argue that this method reduces the influence of political biases and ensures a more diverse and representative judiciary. By introducing an element of chance or rotation, it can help prevent long-term consolidation of power and increase public trust in the judicial system. Image source: lottery balls. In this segment, we will explore the concept of decentralization of judicial power as an alternative system for judicial decision-making. Instead of concentrating power in a single Supreme Court, this approach involves distributing authority across multiple regional or specialized courts. Each court would have the jurisdiction to interpret and apply laws within their respective areas or domains. Proponents argue that decentralization promotes a more localized and context-sensitive approach to justice, ensuring that decisions align with the specific needs and values of different communities. Image source: map with multiple locations. In this segment, we will discuss one of the possible consequences of abolishing the Supreme Court: the potential loss of checks and balances. The Supreme Court plays a crucial role in the separation of powers by serving as a check on the actions of the other branches of government. It acts as a safeguard against potential abuses of power, ensuring that laws and executive actions are in line with the Constitution. Without the Supreme Court, there could be a significant reduction in the ability to hold the government accountable, potentially leading to an imbalance of power. Image source: balance scale. In this segment, we will explore another challenge that could arise from abolishing the Supreme Court: difficulties in maintaining uniform interpretation of laws. The Supreme Court serves as the highest judicial authority, providing consistent and binding interpretations of the Constitution and federal laws. Without a central authority to establish precedent, different courts might interpret laws differently, leading to conflicting decisions across the country. This lack of uniformity could create confusion, undermine the rule of law, and impede the fair and equal application of justice. Image source: maze with multiple paths. In this segment, we will discuss the political challenges and opposition that may arise from the abolition of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is a powerful and influential institution, and any proposal to dismantle it is likely to face significant resistance. Opponents may argue that it is a vital component of the constitutional framework and that its abolition would disrupt the balance of power. Additionally, politicians who benefit from the current system may oppose the idea, as it could challenge their influence and control over judicial appointments. Overcoming political hurdles and building consensus for such a drastic change would be a substantial challenge. Image source: political protest. And there you have it, the arguments and perspectives surrounding the case for abolishing the Supreme Court. As we conclude this episode, it's important to note that this topic sparks intense debate and raises profound questions about the structure and function of our democratic system. Whether we agree or disagree with the idea, examining and discussing these ideas fosters a robust dialogue on how we can continually improve our government institutions. The Supreme Court's role in shaping our laws and safeguarding our constitutional rights cannot be underestimated, yet it is crucial that we continually assess and reevaluate the systems that govern us. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of such a complex and significant matter.